Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gagnon Atelier. I'm your old pal, Tim Gagnon, and today we're going to be talking about color wheels. What the heck are these things? Why are they important? Why you should be using them if you're an artist at every level of being an artist, beginners all the way to pros. I'm going to put them in this hand. You should be using color wheels, these kind of color wheels, not necessarily the kind that you paint and make. That's a different video that you can look at, and we have all kinds of videos on our page, the Gagnon Atelier, but on YouTube and Facebook. But today we're going to be talking about these little handheld things. You get them at any art store. You can get them at Jerry's Artorama, Dick Blick, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, you name it. If there's an art store, you can get these things pretty quickly and pretty easily. But the thing is what are they used for? What's the purpose of them? So today we're going to be talking about that. But if you could do me a favor before we do that, if you could do me the solid of liking and sharing this page. If you're watching us on Facebook, hit the like button and the share button. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching us on the Gagnon Atelier YouTube channel, if you can hit the subscribe button and the fancy schmancy notification bell, I would really appreciate that. That would be a huge help to us. We're trying to grow our online presence for the Gagnon Atelier. And so we're excited about all the things going on. If you want to learn about what's going on at the Gagnon Atelier, you can visit our website at thegagnoatelier.com. And if you're interested in learning about our latest exhibit that we are, I'm literally painting it right now, working on it. It's quite a massive project. You can visit our other website, illuminatedmessiah.com, and you can check all of that out. So there's all kinds of ways to learn about what's going on here, ways to watch our videos, watch our content. We have interviews with today's top working artists called the Modern Masters Podcast. We have educational videos like what we're talking about today. We have Bible study devotionals. We have art encouragement. We have all kinds of art-related things. So if you are an artist, or if you're a person of faith, or if you're both or neither or anything in between, we've got content for you. And I think that you guys, if you check it out, especially by going to the Gagnon Atelier YouTube channel, you're going to be really surprised at all the awesome things that you will see. But with that said, guys, let's talk about these color wheels here and what the heck they are. Color wheels, you buy these things at the store, you see them in the store, and you may go, oh, it's funny. A lot of artists that are a little higher in their skill level will sometimes look at these pocket color wheels and they'll be like, oh, that's for, amateurs. That's for someone that's learning. That's for somebody that doesn't really know what they're looking for. The reality is this is probably one of the most important tools that you should keep in your toolbox. I have two of them. I have this little guy right here, and I keep this one in my plein air kit, making sure I have it at all times. This big one, I have it taped right to that big easel right there, that big 6-7 foot easel. It's a big monster easel. I have it taped right there so that I can reference this material, this information that you see in the slideshow right above my head. That sort of stuff, this right here, this right there. I have it taped to my easel because I need that quick reference. I need to look at it and check things and adjust things and make adjustments when I'm doing my paintings. It's invaluable. Those of you that have been following these videos for a while, you know that I am a huge advocate of color theory. I think it's one of the most important things that an artist can master is color. And so having a better understanding of color is vital. But even for those of us that are a little more seasoned and we understand color, it's still great to have reference tools like this handy so that we can double check, triple check, things like that. If you're a photographer, you should have one of these little ones in your camera case with your camera. This thing is massively important. And so we're going to be talking about how do you use one of these things? Because it's one thing to have one and look at it and play with it and spin it. It's another thing to actually know how to use it. So I make my students get these, and I teach them exactly what I'm going to teach you so that they can learn how to use these things and why. And once you unlock this information, it's going to be like, wow, where's this been all my life? So let's dive in here to the deep end of the swimming pool, and let's take a look at what a color wheel is. So the first thing you notice, there are two sides to the color wheel. There's the front and the back. The front's got the logo on it, Pocket Color Wheel. Now this is this particular company. There are other color wheels out there. This one seems to be the most common that you'll find in an art store. It's also, in my opinion, probably one of the better ones that is out there because of all the information that it gives to the artist or the photographer for what it's supposed to do. So looking at the front, you have all of these things. And when you look at these things initially, you're like, holy cow, this thing is really complicated, but it's really not. So I'm going to take this off the screen real quick, and I'm just going to show you how a color wheel basically works. Now it says right in the dead center how to use the Pocket Color Wheel. It says select a color on the outside wheel, align it with the color on the inside wheel, the mixture appears in the window. And that's really what it is if you look, I'll take this off the screen here so you guys can see. So when we look at a color wheel, it's a wheel inside of a wheel. And so it spins. And you can see as it turns, you see these windows here. These windows, as this turns, you see that the colors change. And we're going to talk about that momentarily. If you flip it to the other side, there's another wheel within a wheel, and it also spins. But each side has a different purpose. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. So again, looking at the front of your color wheel, this thing, again, don't get overwhelmed. We're going to break it down. So initially, the first thing you see when you look at it, let's just look at the center part. And you see there's a lot of writing there. And most people, they see writing and they're like, oh, especially artists. We're all about the pictures. We're not so much about the words, but the words are important. And so if we look at the color wheel, I'm sorry, there we go. There it is. So going from this color wheel, we break it down. In the dead center, you see it says color definitions. And it says primary colors, red, yellow, and blue cannot be mixed from any other colors. So this is really basic stuff, but both for people that are brand new artists all the way to masters of color theory, this is important information. So you have your primary colors, it's explaining them. Then it says the secondary colors, two primary colors mixed together, resulting in orange, green, and violet. So there's your secondary colors. And then tertiary colors are what we call intermediate colors, which is one primary and one secondary mixed together. That's your yellow, orange, your green, blue, your red, violet, things like that. And then you have aggressive or warm colors. Those are your reds, your oranges, and your yellows. And your receding or cool colors, which are your greens, your blues, and your violets. So it's telling you basically that your color wheel, this color wheel here, you can split it in half. You can split it in half between warm colors and cool colors. So that's right there, that first side. But then it also shares with you the attributes of color. The hue, which is another name for color. Tinting, which is color plus white. Tone, which is color plus gray. Shading, which is color plus black. So it's explaining to you different things about color. And like I said, this is your vocabulary that you need for color theory. This is like color theory vocab 101. Okay. The key color, that's the dominant color in a color scheme or mixture, which we're going to be talking about color schemes here real soon. So the key color is that main color. So like, think of it like this way. If you were painting an apple tree, the red apple, the red would be the key color. That's kind of how that goes. Then you have neutral gray, which is a combination of black and white, but it's neither a cool gray or a warm gray. It's a neutral gray. The next thing you have is intensity or chroma, which is the brightness or the dullness of the color. And then you have the value, which is the lightness and the darkness of the color. Now, on your color wheel, it's important that you understand these different definitions, this vocabulary. And so it gives it to you right there, because all the other parts of this color wheel are going to use these terms. And so it's kind of giving you everything you need to know. How do you translate? It's like the Rosetta Stone for your color wheel. These are the terms that will help you understand the color wheel and be able to decipher it. So there you go. So that's the first thing you see. On the second thing on the front that I want to point out is the color chart, the mixing chart part. And that's where you take this and you begin to spin it, okay? And as you spin it, you'll notice that right here, the first one, it says where it says orange, right below that, you see a red like arrow pointing down, and then you see a window and it says adding red. And then next to it, you see a yellow arrow pointing down to a window that says adding yellow. And then another one, blue, and then adding white and adding black. So you have, this is what happens if you add the three primary colors, red, yellow, blue, but also what happens if you add black and white, tinting, which is adding white, and shading, which is adding black. It shows you every color on your color wheel, what will happen if you, let me put it over here, if you move those around, you see how the color changes dramatically if you add those other colors. So it's kind of neat how that works. So that's the first thing. You'll know, what does orange look like if you add red to it? What does yellow look like if you add red to it? What does blue look like if you add red to it? What does green look like if you add red to it? And so if you've ever wondered, what does it look like if you add red to green? Well, there you go. It turns to this like olive color tone. It's really grays it up, but before you get to the gray, you'll get like an olive tone because they're complementary colors, which we're going to again talk about in a minute. So that's the first thing. If you want to see what this color mixed with this color will roughly give you, you can spin that color wheel, this part of the color wheel around, and it shows you how to do it. It's pretty impressive. Okay. So the next thing, and then of course adding white and black, it shows you what will happen if you tint this color, what will happen if you tone the color. I'm sorry, if you shade the color. Adding black is shading. Okay. So the next one is the value chart, and that's at the bottom of the color wheel. That's in this bottom part right here, here and here. Okay, here and here and there. It's hard to do this because it's backwards. But if you look at your color wheel, you see, if this is the color wheel, right at the bottom portion of it, you see these two arches, and they are the value scale, value 1 through 10. Now, depending on your background, when I was going to college and I was taking color theory, in college, we did a 9 value scale, but most of these charts do a 10 value scale, mostly because it's easier to fit everything. 5 on one side, 5 on the other. Excuse me, yawning. So you have your values. You have a value scale of white all the way to black, and every intermediate gray in between that, and they're evenly spaced perfectly. Now, the reason that this is vitally important to a color wheel, like why is grayscale on a color wheel? Well, that's because every color, the attributes of color are hue, saturation, also called chroma, and value. So every color has a lightness and a darkness to it. Like a yellow, if you think of the color yellow, that would be probably a value of 2 or 3, maybe 4. And a dark blue would probably be a value of 8, 9, almost 10. So every color has a value to it. And so understanding there's a lightness and a darkness to every color. And then let's face it, yellow can be a value of 2, almost 1, all the way to an almost black. They're all yellows. So there are varying degrees of every color. And so understanding that is vital to getting your artwork to look right. You know, I've said this a zillion times on the air here, but all painting and drawing is creating the illusion of a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional space. But how do you accomplish that? Well, one of the ways is lights and darks. So light colors or light values come forward and darker values recede. And so by putting the lights and the dark values in the right spots, you can create the illusion of three-dimensionality and depth in your artwork. And so that's kind of what we're talking about here. So that's why that is so important on a color wheel. So that's the front side. Now the back side, so again, the front side, that's everything that's on the front side. So you have the definitions, you have the color mixing, and you have the values. That's all on the front of your color wheel. Now, when you flip the color wheel over to the back side, whoops, to the back side, there we go. I hit the wrong button, guys. When you flip it over to the back side of the color wheel, you have a whole new set of situations here. First of all, you have every color. But one of the first things you'll notice is that every color has three colors underneath it. You have an arrow pointing up that says pure color. We'll go ahead and look at that. You see it right here. Okay. And this is the illustration of color relationships. Okay. So you have the pure color at the top, in this case, yellow. And then you have three bars underneath it. You have tint, tone, and shade. Now, if you remember from the definitions on the front, tint is the color plus white, tone is the color plus gray, and shade is the color plus black. So when we flip the card over and you actually see, this is what the colors look like: tinted, toned, and shade. Now on the front, you have the little spinning, you have the spinning chart that shows you what adding white, which is tinting, and adding black, which is shading, will do to every color. But one of the things that's missing is the toning. And so how do they do that? Well, you could make the color wheel bigger, but it's already pretty big, and it would be almost impossible to do with a small one. So what they do is on the other side, it shows you every color on the color wheel with tint, tone, and a shade. So you see what every color looks like if you add white, if you add gray, and if you add black. And it's pretty significant. That's one of the things I love about color wheels and doing and painting color wheels is when I make my students do this, they really see a dramatic, like, wow, look at that, when they see the difference between adding white, adding gray, and adding black, what it does to a color. It's quite dramatic. And it really like opens your mind. A lot of people think, oh, I need to add white. Well, maybe you should be adding gray. And once you understand why, it's like, oh man, adding gray sometimes is really the way to go, as opposed to adding black or white. So it's a pretty powerful thing. So there's that. That's also on the color wheel. The next thing is in the center. And to me, bada bing, bada boom, this is the most important part of the color wheel. This is the part when I say you need to have a big color wheel on your easel, and you need to have a little color wheel like this in your plein. If you're a plein air painter and you're going out and you're painting, you need to have one of these in your kit. I keep this in my backpack. I keep it with my key most important tools. This is one of the most important tools in my case. This is really seriously awesome. And if you're a photographer, and you're going out and you're taking pictures, you need to have one of these. You need to know how it works, why, and keep it with you so that you can use it. It's amazing the difference this will make. But this particular part, dead center right there, right here, dead center right there, that is where the most important thing in this color wheel is located. And so what is it? Well, first of all, there's some writing on the sides of the back of the color wheel. You see there's writing on both sides of the center, and then there's the center part. So they all kind of combine and they talk about it. So first thing is it talks about color schemes. And if you want to learn more about color schemes, I've made a really, I'm pretty proud of it. I got to say, I'm not going to lie. I'm really proud of it. But there is it's both an educational and a Bible study devotional in a way. But it's pretty stinking amazing. And it's called, if you go to our YouTube channel, go to the Gagnon Atelier YouTube channel and search God is Light. Okay, the video is called God is Light, the Theology of Color Theory. If you watch this video, it goes in super depth about color theory, about how color works, the attributes of color, how light is absorbed or reflected by objects, how our eyes perceive color, all of that stuff, but it also goes into the different color schemes in depth, much deeper than I'm going to do today. So check out that video. I think you guys will really, really like it. I'm going to put it in a link in the description below, and I'm also going to put a link to it on the YouTube channel up above as well. So hopefully you guys can check that out. But here on your color wheel, it talks about the different color schemes. Monochromatic, what is that? Well, that's using any shade, tint, or tone of one color. So blue, basically you take blue and you add white or black. And that's your entire painting is one color that gets progressively lighter and gets progressively darker. That's what a monochromatic image or painting or even photography is. Then you have analogous, which is using any shade, tints, or tones of colors that lie adjacent to each other on the wheel. So on a color wheel, if we go back and we look at a color wheel, let's just go right to here. Okay, if we look at a color wheel, well, using yellow, yellow, orange, and orange, that would be an analogous color scheme. Or yellow, yellow, green, and green, that would be another one. Or you could even do red, red, violet, and violet, like that. You can go that way. So any colors that are adjacent to each other, that are touching each other, that's an analogous color scheme, okay? Then you have achromatic, a colorless scheme using blacks, whites, and gray. So it's basically grayscale image, okay? So they have different things. Then on the other side of that, you see complementary colors, which is combining a shade, tint, or tone of one color and the color opposite on the color wheel. So in the case of our color wheel, a complementary color scheme would be like yellow and violet, or red and green, blue and orange, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what that is. And then you have split complementary color scheme, choosing one color and using the color of each side of its complement on the color wheel. Then you have a few other things: dyad, triad, tetrad. Okay. It also talks about color and light. Subdued evening and candlelight create a distortion of color. Under these circumstances, light colors need more intensity and dark colors less. So it's helping you out in your compositions. It's giving you advice. It's giving you examples of how to use color schemes to make your compositions better, to make your paintings better, to make your photography better as well. And so if you take your camera and then you take some pictures, but sometimes when you got your camera out, right, sometimes you got this great picture here, but if you turn just slightly this way, even though the composition changes slightly, there may be some things over here as opposed to over here that the colors of the objects over here change the color combination, the color scheme a little bit, making it a better picture. And so things like that make a difference. Also, if you have Photoshop, you can take a picture and then you can use your color wheel and you can look at it and go, you know what? I see that I'm this particular color scheme almost. So if in Photoshop, I adjust the color of, say, the sky or the trees or the water or the building or whatever, or that one car to be slightly more red orange as opposed to red, I'm going to create this color scheme, which will make the picture better. And so you can do things like that using a color wheel. We're going to talk about that, though, in a minute. So the wording at the bottom here is giving you all the different color schemes, but the big circle thing in the middle, right here in the center, the dead center, which is at the top of the pop out here. You see it's tetrad, triad. Then there's an arrow going straight up and down that says complementary. And then you have a triangle with arrows on all corners that says split complementary. Now, that's what I'm talking about right here. This is the part that's so cool, because how this works is, if you remember on your color wheel, and I'm going to pull this image here, and then I'm going to hold up my color wheel, and I'm going to take this away for a second. And if we look and I start to turn, I'm going to grab this the right way. There we go. If I start to turn, you see that look right here at this triangle right there. As I start to turn that, you see I can find my split complementary color scheme by going, oh, right there. So there's yellow with blue violet and red violet. If I turn the arrow to be, let's turn it to green. If I turn it to green, the split complementary color scheme is green, red, orange, and red violet. And so that's how that works. So it spins. So when we're using our color wheel in the field, now this is where, how do I start? Where's the application to this thing in the field? I told you guys that a color wheel is something that you should have both on your easel, but also in your photography bag or in your plein air kit. You should have one of these with you at all times. And the reason why is simply because of the in the field application. And this little wheel in the center showing you the different color combinations is how. So I'm going to kind of show you what I mean by that. So when I go plein air painting, I'm out there and I'm like, let's say I go to one of my favorite spots. We have a bridge here in Panama City Beach. It's called the Hathaway Bridge. It's a beautiful bridge. And here's a photo that I took at the Hathaway Bridge. It's a good example. So when I look at this picture of the Hathaway Bridge, and I was standing on the side shore, and I was in this like little rough patch by the beach. It was really cool with all the rocks and the sea oat grass. And then you see the bridge in the background. You see the blue sky. You see the waters and all that. This would make a great painting. And I am going to go to this exact spot soon, and I'm going to plein air paint this thing. But when I'm out there and I get my color wheel out, and I start thinking, okay, where is that? So I'll turn this and I'll look at the picture and I'll say, well, the sky, the blue sky and the blue water is obviously the key color, the most primary color. If we remember going up to the definitions, right? It said, you know, you have all these things, and the key color, the dominant color in the color scheme or mixture. Okay. So what is the key color here? Well, obviously the key color is blue. So I'm going to turn my color wheel, and I'm going to turn it so that the top arrow is pointing to blue. And I'm going to turn it to blue. And then as I look down, I see that the other arrows, I'm trying to do this where you guys can see it too. The other arrows are pointing to two colors. They're pointing to yellow, orange, and red, orange. Okay. They're pointing to yellow, orange, and red, orange. And so when I look at this, and remember that it doesn't have to be full intensity. They can be tone, tinted, or shaded. So when I look at the sky, I see that it's not like perfect blue. It's like a tinted blue, because the sky goes from blue and then it fades to almost white or grayish blue. A lot of white in the sky. So I'll call that a tinted blue. So I'll take my blue and I'll tint it. There's my sky. And then when I look at the grass, I see that it's a toned, could in some cases be a shade of yellow orange. And then when I look at the sand, I see that the sand is actually, if I look in, now we in Panama City, we call it the sugar white sands, and it is very white when you pick it up, look into your hand. But you know, the light, the warmth, the reflected light from all the things around it, the sand is actually, I can make it a tinted by adding white or toning it with a very light gray. I can tone down the red orange to the color of that sand. Now it'll be almost impossible for you to see it, to tell, oh, that's a red orange, but it is. And there's just enough of the red orange in there for it to be a more pleasing composition to fit into a split complementary color scheme. Now, if I was a photographer and I took this picture and I wanted to make it even more of a split complementary color scheme, all I would have to do is figure out what that color scheme should be from looking at the initial photo and saying, okay, I really want to make it this color scheme. And if it wasn't, I could, in Photoshop, I could boost the color of the grass maybe a little bit, or I could adjust the color in the water in the sky or in the sand. And by doing that in Photoshop, I can make this image go from a good photo to a great photo, or a great photo to a spectacular photo, by using color theory and using my color wheel to get me from point A to point B. Color wheels are absolutely one of the most amazing and vital, important tools that you can keep in your toolbox as an artist or a photographer. Matter of fact, I'll even go so far as to say interior designers as well, fashion designers, you should be using a color wheel. If you're doing any type of artistic, if you're a maker of any kind, and that includes color, if you're a cosplayer and you build costumes for cosplay, colors make a difference and in making that costume pop. And sometimes by adding this color instead of that color, it brings it to the next level. You can still have your costume look like, oh, I don't know, Spider-Man. But if you change the red that's in the costume just a little bit and the blue a little bit, boom, you can make some dramatic changes to the costume without it changing the costume. You know what I mean? So it's every maker out there, every creative out there should have color wheels in their toolbox. I can't recommend that enough. I think that once you learn how to use them, and they're not that hard. I mean, we did this in 30 minutes and actually probably just 20. But anybody can learn to use these things. So with that said, guys, I can't recommend enough. Get yourself a color wheel. Get in your car, go to the local art store, or go online and go to your whatever art website that you buy your stuff from, and pick up a color wheel. It will be a huge, huge help to you. Cannot recommend that enough. And so if you guys can do that, I think that you would benefit greatly. So with that said, guys, I just want to once again let you know, if you could like this broadcast for me, if you could hit the share button, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. Share with your friends. And also, if you could check out our YouTube channel, The Gagno Atelier on YouTube, and do me a favor and search that video, God is Light, the Theology of Color Theory. It's the perfect complement to this video. I think that you'll find that thing is really, really great. But with that said, guys, as always, remember, I'm your old pal, Tim. God loves you, and so do I. We'll talk to you next time.